Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Protect Your Farm Business, where we talk about all things about agribusiness. We're currently in our first series, and we've been discussing succession planning topics. And so this is part 4 of that series. You can find part 1 through 3 on the YouTube channel, and it would be great if you could watch those before watching this one. That way you're staying on track with what we're trying to do and you're able to watch it all the way through. So it might make a little more sense if you do that. So today is a little different than kind of the past days. Today we actually got some very sad news. One of our participants in our class that we had in person actually passed away in a freak accident. So it's hard to talk about succession planning because we don't want to think about that time that we're ever going to not be here. But things happen even if we don't expect it. And I think that was just another wake-up call, was knowing someone who did pass with a freak accident in farming. And so very sad. It's very hard, but I really need to talk about our topic today, which deals with this idea of, you've talked about retirement planning, you've talked about transition planning, we've talked about hosting a first family meeting, but how do I move forward? What are the next steps that are in this process? And we get that question, where do we go from here? You've been talking about a lot of different things, so where's our next step? Well, I think the next step in the journey is actually reaching out and creating a team of professionals. And so you're saying, well, who should be my team of professionals? What professionals are required or are needed in the succession planning process? So if we think back of our last 3 lives, again, we've talked about first family meeting, we talked about retirement, we talked about transition planning. So who do we need to help in all these situations? Well, we think you need to incorporate a few different professionals, all used for different needs. So the team of professionals we encourage you to find for your next steps would include a lawyer, an accountant, a financial planner, a banker/lender, maybe an insurance agent, and maybe even a succession planning consultant. So what roles do each of those play in the succession planning process? Well, if we think of a lawyer, they deal with the legal side of things. So they can legally protect you, they can legally protect your assets, and in return, they protect kind of your legacy. So we use a lawyer for protection. They are used in writing agreements, in writing those contracts. They know the different business entities that you're used to transition your assets. They help with living trust, revocable or irrevocable. They help with buy-sell agreements again. So the lawyer is a very crucial part in the succession planning process. And I would encourage you to find a lawyer that best suits you. And I'll get into that in a little bit. The next one is the accountant. So the accountant can protect your legacy by minimizing your tax liability. An accountant might know your business just as well as you do. So they know what you can handle in this transition. They might know that you can handle having 2 families on the farm versus the one. So incorporating the next generation. An accountant can help you with capital gains tax. They can help you with business structures for taxes and estate tax liabilities. So the accountant is really crucial when we talk about succession planning because they know where you might lose money. They will know the business structure and they'll know your business. So an accountant is a great person to have on your team. Another person that a lot of farmers and ranchers probably do not have as a professional right now or have never met with one, but you should maybe incorporate a financial planner into your succession planning team. So what does a financial planner do? Well, they provide knowledge on retirements. So they know about programs that can aid in retirement. So investments, other sorts of retirement strategies that can be used. They are aware of those and are way better at understanding that than I am. So they can also provide some insurance. So some financial planners are actually licensed in some insurance programs. And so if you think about different insurance programs that you might need during succession planning, we have life insurance, long-term care insurance, and you can also think about these different ways of paying down debt. So they can help you with debt reallocation or understanding the debt. So when we think about financial planners, we might be scared, but when you are trying to meet with one, make sure that they have what's called a fiduciary duty, which means that they must always act in the beneficiary's best interest, even when it's in opposition to their best interest. So that is a really important key that I would encourage everyone to know when working with a financial planner, that that financial planner has a fiduciary duty to their clients. So a banker and a lender can help in this process because they can provide information on potential financial options for transferring ownership and assets. So a good question to discuss with a banker is how much ownership the next generation or that successor would need to receive competitive loans. So some examples would be how much do they have to own to be able to ask for an operating line? How much would they need as collateral when talking about large land loans? Or how much ownership or land would they need for FSA beginning farmer and rancher loans? So the banker and the lender could provide some information regarding that. We would hate for a farming child to only have partial ownership and is not able to take out a loan versus the whole land or all the land. And so they wouldn't have a capital loan or an operating loan large enough for their operation. So another person that we discussed is that insurance agent. Again, if your financial planner is unable to provide that insurance for you, maybe an insurance agent could be useful. Again, discussing life insurance, disability insurance, health insurance, and that long-term care insurance. So I like to bring up this long-term care insurance because people are living longer. People are ending up in nursing homes for a very long time, and nursing homes are very, very expensive. And so this long-term care insurance is supposed to help with the cost of those, and it could be a great benefit for the operation if you had that insurance, just so that the operation wasn't bleeding money to have a nursing home cost or paying those nursing home costs. And then lastly, we discussed potential for a farm succession planning consultant. And so there are a few of those around. They really act as a quarterback in succession planning. They can communicate with all of the professionals and coordinate efforts for you. They could act as a neutral party in family conflicts and run family meetings for you. They can evaluate your operation and understand the family dynamics to suggest maybe some options that they think might work best for your business. I believe they are extremely useful if you have a large operation with many entities involved. Some lawyers even act as consultants and have both a consultant side and a lawyer side. And so there are places out there that might be able to offer this if you're interested in a farm succession consultant. So I just gave you the lowdown on who you would possibly want on your farm succession professional team. And so, but I didn't tell you how you should be looking for them. What are some ways you can vet these professionals? So how many of you use the accountant that your dad used? If it's not him, how likely is it that you would use the same accountant as your dad if he was still around? Or maybe you're still using the same accounting firm. But I would say when we ask this in our class, most of our participants are using the same accountant as the operator before them, so their dad or whomever, because they know the business. They didn't have to transfer anything when it became into their name, so they're with the same accountant. But how many of you have ever shopped around for a different professional? And those are the ones that I think is very interesting, is shopping for professionals is kind of difficult. These professionals are trying to sell to you in some cases, which could be uncomfortable. But we want to help you find good professional help. Understand that these professionals are supposed to work for you. You do not work for them, they work for you. Most of them are consultants in some aspect, so they should be following your wants and your needs and listening. So some things to consider, some tips to find good professional help. You should investigate their past experiences. You can ask them about projects they have completed and maybe projects they are proud of. They should be able to answer that. If you ask them, hey, could you show me the last will or the last trust that you have completed that you're able to share, of course, without any names involved, but they should be able to provide you some work examples. Ask them for an example of what they can deliver. It is such a good idea to understand what your expectations are for them by understanding what they've been able to deliver in the past. Get references. So these professionals should be able to provide references to you. I know when I applied for my job, I had to submit a reference list. Just like a consultant, they are applying to work for you. So they need to provide some references. You can ask for their past clients that they feel comfortable using as references. And once you get in contact with those past clients, you're able to ask about their experiences with that consultant. If they're unable to provide references, I'd be very weary of using them. I know most of you will go with someone familiar, maybe a local accountant or a local attorney. And usually that's the best way to do it, is actually go by word of mouth. Maybe someone you know has used a very good attorney and a good accountant. But it's always great to hear from someone who might not be a friend about their experiences using that professional. What you also need to understand is their work habits. Ask them about their time management skills, and definitely try to figure out what their communication skills are. How was it when you called their office for the first time? Did someone answer the phone? Were you sent a voicemail and you checked on their website and they're supposed to be open? Their office says they're open. Why didn't anyone answer the phone? Do you want that when you're in time of need? Do you want that when you're potentially grieving? These professionals are going to be working with you for potentially the rest of your life. So knowing their communication skills and knowing if they match what you are looking for is a huge thing to consider. So you want to know if they can solve problems. So when I think about farm and ranching or the agricultural sector, I know a lot of professionals are losing the ag touch or understanding agricultural operations. A lot less accountants have ag backgrounds, a lot less lawyers have ag backgrounds as the generations change. And so are they willing to reach out to understand the type of business? Are they able to reach out to a farm consultant if they're unfamiliar with the farming business? Are they willing to ask for help when they need it? I think that's a really great point. We learn in extension, if we don't know the answer, say we don't know the answer, and then try to figure out who does know the answer for you. And I think that's a great way of thinking of consultants, is their willingness to find help or seek other information. So would they be accessible to you for phone calls regularly? Is that something that you would like? Are these phone calls regularly? And so you have to ask these questions. What are their ways of checking in with you? How often are they able to meet? I know I've had a car accident the past couple of months. I had one, and my agent has been horrible to contact, and now I'm trying to switch agents. But it's just something that I didn't realize I needed until it was too late. And I've had just an awful experience with the insurance. And so now I have to search for a new insurance agent. But I'm going to ask these questions now. What happens if I get into an accident? How do you help me? Because I didn't ask that then. And then when I had the accident, I found their true colors. So just ask those questions beforehand. So lastly, and maybe most important when it comes to talking to these professionals and trying to figure them out, is ask for their price list. Compare their prices with other consultants. Prices do not always reflect value. So Warren Buffett said it best when he said, price is what you pay, value is what you get. Just because you hired the most expensive lawyer doesn't mean he's the best lawyer. Again, just because you hired the most expensive blank doesn't mean they're the best. And I know that sometimes we can get hung up on that. So a couple more tips for you. Make sure to have every agreement in writing when working with consultants. Understand their billing structure for hired consultants. And just because you've used the same accountant over the years doesn't mean you cannot question their advice or seek an outsider perspective or have a different accountant for succession planning. Maybe that accountant is too close to the family and you'd rather have an outside one. So just some things to think about. So with that, we are now officially done with our 4-part series about succession planning. I would love to hear from you in the comments about some topics that might be of interest to you for the future. We'll continue to have these lives on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. And subscribe so you do not miss one, because we're going to be talking about different topics in the upcoming weeks. So I'd love to open the live up for questions if anyone is on and wants to ask any questions. If you do not have questions, again, please email me. My email's in the description box. Next week, I think I want to discuss some of the things that are happening in the world. Some of us might have read the New York Times article discussing an Idaho farmer dug huge ditches to bury 1 million pounds of onions. I wanted to dig into this a little more, pun intended, but I wanted to understand the markets and how they are being changed by COVID-19. And I think we're all interested in that topic. And I'm going to provide hopefully some insight on what's actually happening and what are some potential ways to help us in this challenging time. So with that, thank you for listening. I hope to see you next week in another segment of Protect Your Farm Business. And again, hope everyone is staying safe and healthy and doing their part in this time. So with that, thank you. See you next week.